Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling one of those universal mysteries that touches everyone's life, but maybe few truly understand. How are salaries actually decided? Have you ever looked at your pay stub and wondered, how did they land on that number? Or maybe seen a colleague doing similar work and thought, why are they making more than me?
Yeah, that's a common one.
And what about those fancy-sounding compensable factors, essentially, the specific elements of a job, like skill or responsibility, that a company chooses to pay for? What do they really mean?
It's true. We're going to peel back the layers on, well, one of the most persistent corporate puzzles. How do organizations pay people fairly, competitively, and strategically all at the same time?
Okay.
It's a real tightrope walk for any company, and we're here to sort of show you how they try to keep their balance, decoding the strategy behind those pay plans, and even those, often sneaky pay bands.
That sounds like we're about to unlock some secrets. So let's start with the basics then. When we talk about compensation, what does that actually include beyond the direct cash we see in our bank account?
Right. It's a crucial distinction. Employee compensation is really the entire package of pay and rewards you get from your job.
Yeah.
We usually break it into two big categories.
Okay.
First, there's direct financial payments. This is what most people immediately think of. Your base salary or maybe hourly wages, any overtime, sales commissions, performance bonuses, other incentive pay. It's the immediate money.
So the stuff that makes your bank account smile on payday. Got it. What's the other side of that coin?
The second category, and honestly, often the unsung hero, is indirect financial payments, what we typically just call benefits.
Ah, right. Benefits.
Yeah, this covers things like your health insurance, retirement contributions, often that 401k match. People look for paid time off, and sometimes even things like housing or travel allowances. So when you combine the direct pay and the benefits, that's your total compensation. And here's where it gets really interesting. While direct payments grab immediate attention and can motivate you short term, benefits often tap into deeper needs like security, belonging, future planning. They can create a kind of golden handcuff, It's less about just the money and more about the whole support system, making it harder to leave for just a small salary bump somewhere else.
That's a powerful insight. Yeah, I know for me, benefits are definitely a huge factor in career decisions. But, okay, once you have those foundational elements clear, what are the external and internal forces that truly shape those numbers? Because it's far from just your boss deciding, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely not. Strategic compensation decisions are shaped by multiple, pretty powerful factors. First, and this is non-negotiable, is the legal framework.
Okay, the law.
Exactly. And just to illustrate how basic this is, think about a country like India, with laws like the Minimum Wages Act, Equal Remuneration Act, gratuity and provident fund rules. These aren't just suggestions. They define the absolute floor for pay standards.
Right.
And that principle of legal minimums applies in different ways pretty much everywhere, ensuring basic protections.
So companies can't just pay whatever they feel like. There are these non-negotiable baselines set by law. Makes sense. What else is influencing this complex equation?
Then there's the significant influence of unions and collective bargaining.
Yeah.
In unionized places, big compensation stuff, wage hikes, bonus structures, benefit changes, those aren't just decided by management.
Yeah.
No, they're formally negotiated with worker representatives. Another critical factor is the company's own organizational strategy.
So,
Think about it. A company focused on cost leadership, maybe like a budget airline, will naturally try to control wages, right? Keep them tight to maintain low prices. But a firm that's all about innovation or premium service, like a high-tech startup or a luxury brand, might deliberately pay above market rates. Why? To attract and retain the absolute top talent. They see compensation as an investment in their competitive edge.
ah, okay.
The real insight isn't just that companies pay differently. It's understanding the sort of subtle tension these strategies create internally.
So the whole business model really filters down into how they pay. And I imagine the broader economy must come into play too. It's not just about what the company wants, right?
Precisely. Labor market conditions are hugely influential. Wage levels are shaped by, well, simple supply and demand. If a particular skill set is really scarce, like, say, expert AI developers right now, companies will offer premium compensation to get that talent because the demand just massively outstrips the supply. It's classic economics driving up salaries for certain jobs.
Okay, all of this is about the what and the how, but then comes the really thorny part. Fairness. Because it's not enough to just pay. You have to pay right. How do companies ensure people feel they're paid equitably? That sounds like a psychological tightrope walk.
It truly is, and that's where the concept of equity and compensation comes in. This powerful idea, which psychologists often call equity theory, basically says that we're all constantly, kind of subconsciously, weighing what we put into our jobs, our effort, skills, time, versus what we get out, our pay, benefits, recognition. And crucially, we compare our ratio to what we perceive others are putting in and getting out.
Ah, the comparison trap.
Exactly. If that scale feels off, even a little bit, we experience this imbalance, and that can have a huge, often negative impact on our motivation, our behavior, everything.
Wow, so it's not just about what I get, but what I think others are getting for what they do. That's a huge psychological piece I hadn't fully considered. What are the different kinds of equity a company needs to juggle them to manage these perceptions?
Right. There are 4 distinct types they're constantly trying to balance. First, external equity. This asks, is our pay competitive out there in the market? Are we paying enough to attract and keep people compared to our competitors?
Okay, market comparison.
Then there's internal equity, which looks inside the organization. Are jobs that we consider to be of equal value paid equally within our own company?
Makes sense.
Third is individual equity. This examines if high performers are genuinely rewarded more for their specific contributions and merit. Are we differentiating pay based on performance?
Right, paying for performance.
And finally, procedural equity. This is about the process. Are the decisions about pay made through fair, transparent, and consistently applied processes? If any of these equity issues are left hanging, they can seriously lead to disengagement, low morale, and even people leaving for, greener, fairer pastures.
So perceived fairness is absolutely key for keeping people engaged and motivated. But how does an organization formally determine the worth of different jobs to ensure that internal fairness? It sounds like a massive, really complex undertaking.
It is, and that's where job evaluation comes in. It's a formal, systematic process. The whole goal is to figure out the relative worth of each job within the organization, specifically to create a fair internal pay structure.
Okay, so how do they do that? What are the methods?
Companies use various ways. Some do simple ranking, just literally ordering jobs from highest value to lowest value. It's simple, but maybe not super precise.
A bit basic, maybe?
Yeah. Others use the classification method, where jobs are slotted into predefined classes or grades, like grade A, grade B, grade C. Government jobs often use this.
Okay, so a basic hierarchy or categories, but I'm guessing the more complex ones are where those compensable factors you mentioned earlier really shine.
Exactly right. The most quantitative and frankly widely used method, and where those compensable factors are crucial, is the point method.
Your point method, okay.
With this, jobs are scored on specific factors. Think things like the skill required, the amount of effort involved, the level of responsibility, maybe the working conditions. Each factor gets a specific weight. How important is skill versus responsibility for this company? And a scale. This allows for a pretty precise numeric value to be assigned to each job.
Sounds very methodical.
It is, but while it sounds purely scientific, designing those factors and assigning their weights, that's actually a highly collaborative and sometimes quite contentious process.
I can imagine.
It really is where the art meets the science of compensation. It needs deep insight into the organization to make sure the factors truly reflect what drives value in that specific company. There's also a factor comparison method, but it's quite complex, sort of a hybrid.
Okay, so once jobs are evaluated and given some kind of worth score, how do companies translate that into actual pay structures and those pay bands we often hear about? It feels like that jump from a score to an actual salary range is where a lot of the magic or maybe the mystery happens.
You're right. That's the next critical step. Once jobs are evaluated, similar jobs with similar point values, for example, are grouped together into pay grades. So you might have, say, grade A for entry-level professionals, grade B for senior specialists, and grade C for managers, just as an example.
Okay, grouping similar jobs.
Exactly. Then, within each of these pay grades, you establish pay ranges. Each range has a minimum salary, a midpoint, and a maximum salary. This provides flexibility.
Flexibility how?
Well, it allows for individual salaries within that grade to vary based on things like experience, performance, maybe tenure, while still keeping things within an overall controlled structure.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not just one single salary number per job grade, but a flexible range. Is there a visual way they align all this internal stuff with what's happening outside the company in the market?
Yes, absolutely. That's where the wage curve comes in. Think of it as a graph.
Okay.
It plots the job evaluation points, which reflect that internal worth we talked about, against market salary data. It's really crucial because it helps ensure that balance between internal equity paying fairly inside and external competitiveness paying competitively compared to others. It's all about finding that sweet spot on the graph.
Speaking of external competitiveness, how do companies actually know what other organizations are paying for similar roles? It feels like that information would be pretty closely guarded. Are they all just, like, playing a sophisticated game of follow the leader?
Huh. In a way, yes. It's true, some data is proprietary, but companies actively use salary surveys. Their whole purpose is to figure out what similar jobs are paid in the relevant market.
So they buy these surveys.
Often, yes, or participate in them.
Right.
To make these comparisons meaningful, they rely on benchmark jobs. These are standard, well-defined roles like staff accountant or software engineer 2 that are common across many companies, making them good points for comparison.
Okay, so they look at what everyone else is paying for the same kind of standard work. And then do they just try to match it? Or are there different strategies involved there?
Oh, they definitely have different pay level strategies, and this is where that strategic nuance really comes in. A company might choose to lag the market, meaning they intentionally pay below the average.
Why would they do that?
Usually cost control. Or sometimes it's a deliberate choice for, say, nonprofits or mission-driven organizations where the purpose itself is part of the paycheck, attracting people who value impact maybe more than top dollar.
Interesting.
Or they might match the market, paying right around the market average. That's pretty common. And then there are companies that choose to lead the market, paying above average.
To get the best talent, presumably.
Exactly. To attract and retain top performers and be seen as an employer of choice. But, leading the market might attract great people, but it can also potentially lead to a sense of entitlement if it's not carefully balanced with strong performance management. A good strategy really balances this market positioning with maintaining that internal fairness we talked about.
Right, always back to balance. Beyond these sort of traditional approaches, what about modern or evolving ways companies are thinking about compensation now? Are there broad trends shaking up how we get paid?
Great question. Yeah, things are definitely evolving. One significant trend is competency-based pay.
Competency-based? How does that work?
Instead of just paying for the job title or the job description itself, this approach pays an employee based on their actual skills, their knowledge, their demonstrated behaviors, their competencies. It's actually a fantastic way to encourage continuous development and flexibility. The idea is the more you learn and can do, the more you can potentially earn, even in the same basic role.
That sounds like a smart way to incentivize growth. What else is emerging or becoming more common?
Another trend is broadbanding. This basically involves collapsing multiple traditional narrow pay grades into fewer, much wider bands.
Fewer, wider bands. Why do that?
It reduces rigidity, it can promote more lateral movement across the company, and it makes it easier for employees to grow their salary within their roles without necessarily needing a formal promotion to get a significant pay bump. Gives managers more flexibility too.
Okay. Less hierarchical, maybe.
Sort of, yeah. And then there's a continued strong emphasis on pay for performance. This means tying rewards directly to individual, team, or even company performance outcomes.
Exactly.
Things like sales incentives, annual bonuses based on hitting specific targets, profit-sharing plans where everyone gets a piece if the company does well, stock options. It's about directly linking pay to results and measurable contribution.
Right. Making pay less of a fixed cost and more of a variable one tied to success. Is there a specific metric they use internally to track all this to make sure pay is where it should be within those ranges and strategies?
Absolutely. A really common and powerful one is the compa ratio.
Compa ratio.
Yeah, it stands for compensation ratio. It's a simple calculation. An employee's current salary divided by the midpoint of their pay range.
Okay, so it tells you where someone sits in their band?
Exactly. It's not just some HR metric. It's actually a strategic pulse check. Imagine a manager looks and sees their whole team has compa ratios of like 1.1 or 1.15. That's potentially a red flag.
Why?
It means those employees are nearing the top or even above the midpoint of their pay band. If they're high performers, the company needs to think fast about promotion opportunities or maybe other kinds of rewards, or they risk losing them to competitors who can offer more growth potential salary-wise. It helps spot retention risks and manage salary budgets proactively.
That's really useful. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the often mysterious world of executive and managerial compensation. Why does it seem so different from how most other people get paid? Is it some kind of corporate sorcery going on there?
It can certainly seem that way sometimes, but honestly, it's less sorcery and more just complexity. These top roles often lack clear, direct comparables across the market, which makes pricing them incredibly nuanced.
So how do they figure it out?
Companies typically rely on a mix of things. They use market pricing, looking at what other similar-sized companies in their industry pay their executives for that external alignment. Then they factor in role complexity for internal alignment. What's the real impact and scope of this specific position within our company? And then, of course, they factor in performance, both past results and future potential to determine specific rewards like bonuses and stock grants.
So it's less about a strict job evaluation score and more about a kind of holistic, high-stakes assessment. What are the typical components of executive pay that make it look so distinct from, say, mine?
Right. Executive compensation usually involves several key components, each designed for a specific strategic purpose. There's base pay, which provides stability, but then you often see significant bonuses tied to hitting short-term financial or strategic targets.
Okay.
And crucially, long-term incentives like stock options or restricted stock units. This is key because it makes their long-term wealth directly dependent on the company's stock performance and success. The idea is to align their interests directly with the shareholders.
Makes sense. Skin in the game.
Exactly. And then there are often various perquisites or perks, like a company car, maybe a club membership, sometimes even personal financial planning services. What's absolutely critical here, though, especially in publicly traded firms, is extreme transparency and really strong governance around how these pay decisions are made, given the high stakes and the public scrutiny they often face.
Absolutely. All these sophisticated plans sound great on paper, but, a great plan means nothing without good execution day to day. What are the practicalities of actually administering a pay plan, making sure it works in the real world?
You're exactly right. A brilliantly designed pay plan can totally fall flat if it's not administered effectively. First and foremost, communication is paramount.
Talking about pay, that can be tricky.
It can be, but employees need to understand the logic behind their compensation. If there's a lack of transparency, it just breeds suspicion and distrust, and that undermines all that hard work you did on fairness and equity.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, if you don't understand how your pay is determined, it's easy to feel undervalued or just suspicious about the whole thing.
Precisely. Then there absolutely needs to be a robust review mechanism. Compensation plans aren't static. They can't be set it and forget it.
Right.
They need regular review, at least annually, sometimes more often, to ensure they stay aligned with the market, with individual and company performance, and with any internal changes to roles or the organizational structure. Things change.
Constantly.
And critically, there must be an accessible and fair grievance handling process. Employees need a way to raise compensation concerns or questions without fear of reprisal and know they'll be heard fairly. Finally, budgeting is a massive administrative task.
I bet payroll is huge.
It really is. Compensation typically forms a very large chunk of an organization's operating costs. So the budgeting for it needs to be robust. It needs to be capable of scenario-based planning. What if we grow faster, slower? And it has to be closely linked to the company's overall financial health and forecasts.
Wow, what a deep dive. It really highlights how strategic pay planning is this incredibly complex balancing act, isn't it? Between fairness, competitiveness, organizational sustainability. It's so much more than just a number on a spreadsheet. It's like a living, breathing part of the business strategy.
It really is. Not just a number at all. I think the key takeaways are, understanding all those different angles of equity, internal, external, individual, and procedural, applying rigorous job evaluation methods, aligning that internal pay structure carefully with the external market realities, and then administering the entire system with transparency and fairness.
Yeah.
When it's done right, compensation isn't just a cost to a company. It's actually a powerful strategic tool. It helps attract, retain, and truly motivate the talent you need to drive the entire organization forward.
That's a huge shift in perspective, thinking of it as a strategic tool. Knowing all this, you might never look at your paycheck quite the same way again.
Probably not.
And perhaps armed with this understanding, you, the listener, will be better equipped to understand your own compensation, maybe more confidently navigate future career discussions, and even spot those sneaky pay bands in action. It leaves me wondering, what factors will you prioritize in your next compensation conversation?